जन्म जन्मांतरों में वे मेरे प्रभु हैं। वे प्रेमा भक्ति प्रदान करते हैं और अविद्या का नाश करते हैं। वैदिक शास्त्र उनके चरित्र का गान करते हैं। हे गुरुदेव, हे प्रभुपाद, करुणा सिंधु तथा पतितात्माओं के मित्र, आप सबके गुरु एवं सभी लोगों के जीवन हैं। हे गुरुदेव, हे प्रभुपाद, मुझ पर दया कीजिए तथा मुझे अपने श्री चरणों की छाया प्रदान कीजिए। आपका यश तीनों लोकों में फैला हुआ है। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरवनचारी, यमुना तीरवनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे रामा राम राम हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा जय प्रभुपादा श्रील प्रभुपादा। श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते गौरचंद्राय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Hare Krishna. Reading from Granth Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 16, Text 24, chapter entitled A Description of Jambu Dvipa. This is a text in prose. I'll just read through the text and then we'll have the word by word meaning. Evam kumuta nirodho yas shatavalisho namavatas tasya skandebhyo nichina payo dadi madughrita gudannanadyambara shayyasana bharanadayaha sarva eva kamaduganada nadaha kumudagrat patantastam उत्तरेनायलावृतम उपयोजयन्ति। एवं thus Kumuda Nirodhaha, having grown on Kumuda mountain, Yaha, that Shatavat Saha Nama, the tree named Shatavalsa, because of having hundreds of trunks. Vataha, a banyan tree. Tasya, of it. Skandebhyaha, from the thick branches. Nichinaha, flowing down. Payaha, milk. Dadhi, yogurt. Madhu, honey. Ghrita, clarified butter. Guda, molasses. Anna, food grains. Adi, and so on. Ambara, clothing. Shaya, bedding. Asana, sitting places. Abharanadhayaha, carrying ornaments, and so on. Sarve, everything. Eva, certainly. Kamadughaha, fulfilling all desires. Nadaha, big rivers. Kumudagrat, from the top of Kumuda mountain. Patantaha, flowing. Tam, to that. Uttarena, on the northern side. Ilavratam, the land known as Ilavrata Varsha. Upayojayanti, give happiness. These synonyms, the following translation and the purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and the preeminent Shiksha Guru. Srila Prabhupada ki. Kindly repeat after me the translation. Similarly, on Kumuda mountain, there is a great banyan tree which is called Shatavalsha. It says Valsha, so Shatavalsha. Yeah. Because it has 100 main branches. From those branches come many roots, from which many rivers are flowing. These rivers flow down from the top of the mountain to the northern side of Ilavrata Varsha for the benefit of those who live there. Because of these flowing rivers, all the people have ample supplies of milk, yogurt, honey, clarified butter or ghee, molasses, food grains, clothes, bedding, sitting places, and ornaments. All the objects they desire are sufficiently supplied for their prosperity, and therefore they are very happy. Can we listen to these transcendental ecstasies of the Bhaktivedanta purports? The prosperity of humanity does not depend on a demoniac civilization that has no culture and no knowledge, but has only gigantic skyscrapers and huge automobiles always rushing down the highways. The products of nature are sufficient. When there is a profuse supply of milk, yogurt, honey, food grains, ghee, molasses, dhotis, saris, bedding, sitting places, and ornaments, the residents are actually opulent. When a profuse supply of water from the river inundates the land, all these things can be produced. And there will be no scarcity. This all depends, however, on the performance of sacrifice, as described in the Vedic literature. Annad bhavandi bhutani parjanyadanna sambhavaha yajnat bhavati parjanyo yajnah karma samudbhavaha. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yajna or sacrifice, and yajna is born of prescribed duties. These are the prescriptions given in Bhagavad Gita 3.14. If people follow these principles in full Krishna consciousness, human society will be prosperous and they will be happy both in this life and in the next. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Before I commence the discussion today, I seek blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas present here, that I may present the topics of this complex chapter in a most complex Grantharaj called Srimad Bhagavatam, made so simple by the Bhaktivedanta purports. kindly bless me and pray for me that I may present these purports for your pleasure and my purification. So this 16th chapter describes about Jambudvipa and Sumeru. So this is like the middle of all the continents and the mountains. And Parishit Maharaj inquires about the dimensions of the islands and oceans, which he had heard from the story of King Priyavrata. Now Priyavrata, as we know, had taken the orbit of the sun and created the various islands and the oceans. And this was sort of completed in the 5th canto, 1st chapter, 30th verse. I had briefly mentioned this in the last class as well. So here it's mentioned that the breadth of Bhumandala, it extends as far as the sun shines. And within it, the moon and the other luminaries are also seen. That is what is described by Acharyas. So Parishit Maharaj is asking Shukdev Goswami, Tvaya Bhagavan khalu suchita etad eva akilam aham manato lakshanatascha sarvam vijijisnami. He wants to inquire. He has a desire, vijijisnami. So he desires to know more. All about the islands and the oceans with their measurements and the qualities. And he is asking Shukdev Goswami, Tvaya Bhagavan khalu suchita etat eva akhilam. Everything that was described by you about the Bhumandala with its islands and the oceans and everything. He's asking Shukdev Goswami to explain. So the 7 seas were created, from which the 7 islands, Yataha, from there, each of a very specific construction, Vishesha Vikalpaha, they were constructed. And they belong to especially the earth, Etashayaha, they were formed. So he's saying, Etat, I want to know about these islands and oceans. And why? Because for the benefit of all the yogi bhaktas or bhakti mishra yogis, effectively speaking, bhakti mishra yogis, he wanted to give it for their benefit. Parishit Maharaj, obviously, he had only 7 days. But this is again the glory of a pure devotee, that even when he is under extreme adversity, he himself has very less time. He wants to ensure that parobaharartham idam shariram. He is doing this for the benefit of others as well. So he is not using the word Bhagavato gunamaye sthula rupa aveshitam manohi agunepi sukshmatama atma jyotishi pare brahmani bhagavati vasudevakye kshamam aveshitam tadu haitat guru arkhasi anuvarnayitum iti. He said, "O Guru, the mind fixed on the Lord's gross form, Bhagavato gunamaye sthula rupa aveshitam." The mind fixed on the gross form of the made of matter, the Supreme Lord's form made of matter, which is this manifestation that we see around us. Parasya Brahmana Shakti Tadavam Akilam Jagat. Or Idami Vishwam Bhagavan Ivetaraha. There is not different. Krishna and his creations are not different. His whole world is the same as him. Or Sarvam Vishnuvayam Jagat. It is also mentioned, like we discussed the last time, that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a wonderful bhajan. He says, Keshava Tuva Jagata Vichitra. The wonderful variety of the Supreme Lord's diverse creations, which is something that material scientists can never explain through their Big Bang. How can there be such diversity of creation? And how so many different species, such different landmarks, so many oceans, each with a different configuration, different species. Prabhupada mentions about that. In Gajendra Moksha also, we discussed this earlier, that so they mention about how in the Trikuta mountain lions were roaring. So Prabhupada mentioned there. It is clear now that in higher planets also, therefore, there are animals. So obviously we know in Goloka there are many kinds of variety, but whatever we see here is a perverted reflection of what we see in the spiritual world. Urdhva Moolam Adashakam Ashwattam Prahuravyayam. So today we are also talking about a banyan tree here in this particular context. So Parishit Maharaj is asking this question so that the mind can absorb itself on the Supreme Brahman or the Supreme Lord Bhagavan, Vasudeva. Vasudeva itself means somebody who is omnipresent. He is beyond matter. So therefore, he is asking for the structure. Anuvarnayitum iti. Please describe the structure of the universe. Now, one context of looking at this Anuvarnayitum, meaning it is already laid down by the Acharyas and by the Supreme Lord himself. It is being described in follow-up on that. But Parishit Maharaj never used the word Maya, me. He is not using that word. He is not saying by fixing my mind on the Lord's gross form. He is not saying that. He is saying Bhagavato Gunamaya Sthula Rupa Aveshitam. Which means everybody should meditate on the gross form. Just like Arjuna asked for the Supreme Lord to reveal his universal form, not because he himself was not convinced about the Supreme Lord's divinity and his omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence, omni-everything. It's not that. It's because people down the line should have an understanding as to who is the Supreme Lord, what is his opulence, how great is he. Brahto yasmin Brahma. Brahma means that which is great. So, he's asking Bhagavato Gunamaye Sthula Rupe, which means the gross form of the universe made of the gunas. This belongs to the Lord. This creation is also, it belongs to the Lord. Prakriti kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasya. But whose prakriti? Maya adhyakshana prakriti. Prabhupada keeps asking the question. The material scientists say that everything is because of nature. But whose nature? So that is the Supreme Lord. And therefore it's mentioned that he is beyond the gunas. So that is why it says Mamchayo avyabhicharana bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati tetan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. If we perform bhakti yoga, we understand that the Lord is beyond the modes, and when we perform bhakti yoga, we can go beyond the modes. Please remember, this particular shloka comes in 14th chapter. 14th chapter is, those 6 chapters are about Jnana Yoga. And Krishna is still emphasizing Sagunan Samatityatan Brahma Bhaya Kalpate. He is saying Bhakti Yogena Sevate. So when we have that particular devotion to the Supreme Lord and see how great he is, then we will be able to appreciate him much better. Just like Sukadeva Goswami had to go through these 9 cantos to take us into the beautiful nectarian pastimes of the Supreme Lord, where he is a person. And that yet performing some amazing activities which we will not be able to appreciate unless we know the greatness of the Supreme Lord in the first 9 cantos which is mentioned. So there's a great mountain known as Sumeru, and then there are 4 supporting mountains on 4 sides. There are Mandara, Meru Mandara, Suparshva and Kumuda, 4 mountains. So they support these mountains. There are various calculations, we won't get into that, we already discussed that. And it is mentioned that in Jambudvipa, there are 9 divisions of land. Each of them is like 9,000 yojanas, separated by 8 mountain ranges. So, it is mentioned that there are 2 varshas in the north, on the north and south. They are bow-shaped. There are 4 other varshas which are long. And there is Ilavrita Varsha, which is square. So, there are these 7. The Varsha on the south is called Bharata Varsha, which used to be known as Ajanabha Varsha, after King Nabhi. And in the north is Uttara Kuru, there is a Varsha. Then there are 4 long Varshas called Kimpurusha Varsha, Hari Varsha, Ramyaka and Hiranmayani Varsha. Then there is Bhadrasva Varsha and Ketumala Varsha. They are shaped like bows. They are bordered by the Nila and Nishada mountain ranges. They are running horizontally and entering into the sea. It's again, I won't get into the calculation because numbers are not my strength. I don't want to get into it. Ilavrita, Bhadrasva and Ketumala, their breadth is given. Ketumala, Bhadrasva, Meru, everything is given. So now we come down to the moot point. Chaturshveteshu Chuta, Jambu, Kadamba, Nyagarodas. It talks like there are flag staffs, like your Dvajastamba in many places. You have Dvajastambas, big flag staffs, where Jai Patakas are flowing. So on these flags, there are flag staffs there on the summits of these 4 mountains. The Mandara is the first mountain, so there is a mango tree there. Then there is a rose apple, which is a jambu tree. There is a kadamba tree and a banyan tree. These are the 4 trees. So on these 4 mountains, there are 4 lakes. They are filled with milk, honey, sugarcane, and pure water, respectively. And I'm just thinking the people in the other 4, on the other 4 mountains will be thinking, those other 3 people have better water to drink. One is sugarcane, one is milk, and one is honey. We keep hearing it was flowing milk and honey. So now we understand where it comes from. It's from the scriptures. It was flowing milk and honey. There are many celestial beings, Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, Gandharvas. They partake of these water and they possess great mystic opulences because of that. They're also talking about 4 celestial gardens there in each one of them. One is Nandana Kanan, we heard of that. Nandana, Chaitra Radha, Vaibrajaka, and Sarvatobhadra. Sarvatobhadra means most completely great. Then on the Mandara mountain, there is a mango tree, like we discussed. Incidentally, this was the verse I spoke about the last time. It is called Devachuta or Devachuta. The huge mangoes, obviously, it doesn't talk about, like in Mahaprabhu's Leela, the mangoes being without the seeds. That is not being mentioned here. But I was just thinking what will happen if one of those mangoes falls. So, like I was saying the other day, in Hindi there is a word called aam. Aam means mango, aam means common also. So this is no aam. It's very khas aam. So then we have, then from the drinking water of the river Arunoda, the Lord Shiva's wives, Mother Parvati's, her maid servants, they are essentially Yaksha's wives. Because Yaksha, some people say that this comes in Bhuvar Loka, so that needs to be calculated. So they become very fragrant. And it's amazing, they drink this water, they become fragrant, and the wind carrying the perfume of their bodies perfumes the entire atmosphere for 10 yojanas around. It's so inconceivable. And this is the material creation. What do we talk about it? Then there is Jambu Nadi. Jai Sri Radha Parthasarthi Lalita Vishaka. Sri Sri Gauranitai ki jai. Sri Sri Ram Lakshmana Hanuman ki jai. One of the benefits of a combined altar is that you don't have to cringe your neck to Gauranitai. So then there is so Jambu Nadi is formed from the juice of the jambu fruit. It says they are as big as elephants. So so from there it falls a distance of 10,000 yojanas from the summit of Meru Mandara mountain. So there is earlier was Mandara mountain, mango tree, Meru Mandara, jambu tree. It covers the entire length of Ilavrata Varsha. I congratulate you on your intelligence that you're able to understand it from the diagram. So I can't. So so this juice, it moistens the whole banks of that area. It moistens all the sands. The Jambu Nadi. So the juice it. And then what happens because of this? Because of the air and sunshine, it forms gold. So pretty interesting. So all the devatas and their youthful wives, they wear this gold. So we come further, it gets more complicated. 5 rivers of honey, they flow from the hollows of the tree called Mahakadamba, going on to Suparshva mountain. That's the other one. They give on the western direction, and they give pleasure to the inhabitants of Ilavrata Varsha. Then Yahi Upayunjanana Mukha Nirvasito Vayu Samanta Chatayojanam Anuvasayati. So the air carrying the scent from the this comes in, I think, previous shloka. Yeah. those who drink the honey perfumes the land for 100 yojana. So this also keeps increasing. The amount of scent that comes from partaking of these liquids. Now we come to the words under question, which is the 24th verse, not question, discussion. So here, there are some very interesting thoughts that come to mind. Prabhupada starts the purport by saying the prosperity of humanity does not depend on a demoniac civilization. There is no culture and no knowledge, but has only gigantic skyscrapers and huge automobiles always rushing down the highways. I remember one lecture of Srila Prabhupada where he even imitates the sound of the car. Does anyone remember how he does? Soft cars, huh? So he does all that. Prabhupada is very good at this. They call onomatopoeic sounds. They hiss like that. So he says, he says. So, and then the dog was barking, gag, 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 gag. It gets into all that. So here it's mentioned that you have a civilization that is composing of gigantic skyscrapers and automobiles. I remember hearing in a lecture way back in 2000, one sannyasi, I think this was in Mumbai, I heard his lecture, just said this, that I found it very interesting. He said, if you want to be in the material world and you're attached to a house and a car, that is why the material world is called Kar Agra. so this is just the automobiles and skyscrapers. Ambara Chumbi, skyscrapers. But it's very interesting that they're called skyscrapers because people spend so much money, they have to scrape the bottom of their purses to get the money to build these skyscrapers. So these are skyscrapers, and it's the concrete jungle, we discussed about all these trees in the various varshas. Now Prabhupada is talking in the purport about this concrete jungle that we have, which is these trees, which are the skyscrapers. And instead of the rivers flowing, we have petrol flowing. The petrol flowing, and the fruits that are actually fruits of our civilization are these iron fruits, because Kali Yuga is the age of iron. So these cars made of iron, they are going around. They are flowing. And the only difference is those people could drink those water and milk and sugarcane and all that. We can't drink petrol. We still have to drink the water which has been polluted by the cars which are running on petrol. So in other varshas, the liquid there is nourishing the people so that they are giving out perfumed scents. But where we live in right now, Bharata Varshe Bharata Kande Mero Dakshine Parshve, that is where we are. So what happens to us? We are using these cars which pollute the same water with which we have to drink. And obviously there are other things that are used as liquids. Like it's mentioned in the context of Prithu Maharaj, that everyone who was someone in the material universe was making somebody, the representative, as a calf and milking the mother earth, and she was giving all benefits, everything that they required. So the Daityas, they made Prahlad Maharaj as the calf, they milked the liquor and they stored it in an iron pot. So I'm just curious what our people are in Kali Yuga. If this is what the Daityas did, then what is our civilization about? And that is what Prabhupada is saying. Demoniac civilization. So, if this is the whole civilization we are living in, it says that they have no culture or no knowledge. And that's the greatness of Srila Prabhupada and his books. What he has given us, what he has given the whole world is a culture. He's given even the whole world a culture. And he's giving a civilization. Interestingly, civilizations normally grow on the banks of rivers. Whether it is Ganga, Yamuna, Kaveri, or Tungabhadra, Godavari, or as a Sindhu, There are civilizations that grow on the banks of rivers gradually. So that is what we are seeing here. These are all great personalities. They can simply, by the fruit juices which are touched by the air and sunshine, they can get precious metal. They don't have to work so hard for this kind of work. Nature itself provides all the bounty that is required. We know from the story of King Vena and Prithu Maharaj that because Vena was a demoniac king, there was no Sankirtan, there was no yajna, nothing was happening, there was no sacrifice. Because there was no yajna, there was no yajna phala. So what happened was that the whole world was full of crooks, criminals, thieves. And the earth withdrew its mercy. Mother Earth, she was not giving any benefits to the people, whether it's minerals, whether it is like gold, etc., or whether it is fruits, whether it's honey, whether it's anything else. The natural bounty was not available for them. But then when Prithu Maharaj took over, of course he's a Shaktivesh avatar of the Supreme Lord, and that is why we see how Prithu Maharaj is also the Archa Avatara. He is also the Shaktivesh Avatara for Archanam, which is deity worship. And he is also part of the Palana Shakti of the opulence of the Lord, administration. So I mentioned this earlier in the 4th canto that once Srila Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada, which limb of devotional service is management? So Prabhupada told it is Archanam. So they're connected in that sense. So the job of a leader or king or a manager is to ensure that there is Sankirtana being performed. In fact, Srila Prabhupada made a list of charter of demands when he met the then Prime Minister in the 1970s, saying that all the parliamentarians, they should be initiated Brahmanas, irrespective of their birth, and they should, every day the parliament should commence with Sankirtan. He had many such charter of demands. And so therefore it is very, very essential that if the leaders do not personally perform Sankirtan and do not facilitate the performance of Sankirtan or the sacrifice in Kali Yuga, the earth will not give bounty, will not give any harvest. We see that today. Harvests are going down. We have to artificially look at genetically modified crops to provide good harvest. We have to sprinkle silver iodide on clouds for them to break and shower rain. So that means natural, the earth by herself is not providing all that she is supposed to give. And it is the nature of the earth to provide these. So it is mentioned that because on Prithu Maharaj's behest, gradually each one of the personalities around, they started milking Mother Earth was in the form of a cow, and she started giving various products for them. So that includes, for example, like I said, the Daityas using Prahlad Maharaj. Then Prithu Maharaj himself used Swayambhu Manu, and Swayambhu Manu as the calf, milked Mother Earth, and they got all grains and all other useful things that are required for the maintenance of everyone. In fact, in the context of Narada Muni, when he was born as the son of a Shudrani, after being cursed by the demigods as Upabarhana the Gandharva, because he glorified not Krishna but somebody else, maybe some worldly material songs, mundane songs he was singing. So now we know what is the destination of somebody who listens to mundane songs or sings mundane songs. I'm scared with the history that we have with our samskaras. God knows the destination for some of us at least. So then what happens is, because of that, he got birth as the son of a lady who was serving Bhakti Vedantas. In the months of Chaturmasya, they were staying there, and he also partook of the remnants of those Bhakti Vedantas, and he heard from them. And he was a serious boy. It was mentioned he was not frivolous, he was not into games, too much laughing, etc. So he was a very serious boy, and therefore the Bhaktivedantas gave him knowledge. So for those of us who are practicing sadhakas, it is very important to strike the right balance between prajalpa and glorification of the Lord. When any of you strikes the balance, please let me know, because I would like to strike a balance. It's very difficult because for somebody who's young to be serious, to absorb the topics of Krishna consciousness is very, very difficult. And Narada Muni did that. And therefore, after the death of his mother, he was not even affected one bit. It did not affect him. He was very, very sober and grave in that. And then he went around, it's mentioned, in the first canto it's mentioned that he goes around the countryside. He saw many towns, many cities, many villages. He saw great forests with bountiful rivers, mountains giving mineral ores, etc. It is mentioned. So, and he says it is those places rivaled even the heavenly planets, it is mentioned, in the context of Narada Muni traveling. And there in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that for a Parivrajagacharya, it is natural that he will come across this kind of variety, but one should not be attached to these sort of natural sites. We should not become nature worshippers. We can see just Kesava Tuva Jagata Vichitra. We understand that Krishna's creation is diverse, bountiful, beautiful. So we accept that. Because he is Pati, Patim Vishwasya Atmeshwaragam Shashwatagam Shivam Achyutam. He is a maintainer of everything. So it's natural that this sort of a creation is maintained by the Supreme Lord, not directly even, but the portion of his personal expansion he's maintaining. And that person also, it is mentioned, Parasya Shaktir Vividhaiva Shruyate Subhaviki Jnanabale Kriyecha. Through his energies he maintains. And when we understand this fact that the Supreme Lord, with this sort of diverse creation, maintains everything, then we understand the glories of the Supreme Lord, and we are able to appreciate him, and therefore we are able to grow in our own devotion. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadadi kaman ya atma sa atmayena pashyanti tesham shanti shashwati notaresham. That living entity who understands that the one maintains the many, he is forever peaceful, and not one who doesn't. Sada samudvikna dhyam asadgrahat. This body, no matter which varsha we are staying in which dvipa we are staying in, within the material world, will forever be perplexed and be anxious. Unless we understand the role the Supreme Lord plays in our life, and the fact that the gross form of matter, which is this form of the Lord, extended form of the Lord, Vishwarupa, Virata Rupa, the universal form, we see his whole creation and see how the Supreme Lord is ekam shena sthito jagat. By just a mere fragment of himself, he is maintaining this entire material creation. And then Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, yatyat vibhudimat sattvam srimadurjitam evava tatta devavigachata mama tejo amsha sambhavam. Just a fragment of his opulence is sufficient for the Supreme Lord to pervade all the great vibhutis that are around. So these sort of banyan tree that is many yojanas wide and tall, a jambu tree, mango tree, sugarcane juice flowing as rivers, is nothing. When we say that in Sriya Kanta Kanta Paramapurusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumis Chinta Mani Gana Mai, everything is Chinta Mani Gani, Chinta Mani, touchstones, desire fulfilling stones in the Goloka. Toyam Amritam. It doesn't say Amritam anywhere. Even in the heavenly planets, Amritam doesn't flow as rivers. They drink so much juice, maybe. They get the Amrita, which is given by Dhanvantari and Mohini Murti to the demigods. But the original eternal nectar is flowing as rivers. Toyam, the water is flowing in the spiritual world. So no matter how opulent we may see something in the material world, any of these varshas, any of these dvipas, any of the islands, which is the same, any of the rivers, any of these things, these things are all just a fragment of the Supreme Lord's opulence, because his spiritual universe, which is also an expansion of his first expansion, Baladeva, all the dhams are expansions of Baladeva. He expands himself as paraphernalia and as in Shantarasa. Even that is so much more diverse and glorious than this material creation. So then, if this pastime of, I think I mentioned this earlier also, and many of the devotees might have, all of you must have heard this. There was this very attractive air hostess who was there in the flight, and Prabhupada's disciple got distracted envisioning her momentarily. So obviously Prabhupada caught him in the act, red-handed or red-eyed, whichever way you want to see. So then, he thought, as they say, foot in the mouth, he didn't know what to do. And Prabhupada said, I know, she's attractive. If she's so attractive, then imagine how the person who created her, how attractive he will be. I don't want to quote this because we just discussed about mundane songs, but there is a famous Hindi movie song which is mentioned. In fact, His Grace Chitamita Prabhu long back once quoted this song in a lecture. I don't know if you remember. He said, खुदा भी आसमां से जब जमीन पे देखता होगा, मेरे महबूब को किसने बनाया सोचता होगा. So this is stupid. This is assuming that Krishna doesn't know what is happening. So it's something else that is to be understood. That okay, let me come up with the Hindi song. इसकी रचना इतनी सुंदर, जिसकी रचना इतनी सुंदर, वो कितना सुंदर होगा. That's the song. Somebody quoted this song after listening to Prabhuji's lecture in Gurgaon, because I quoted this in Gurgaon, your lecture, and they replied to this. This is some 10, 15 years back, 10, 12 years back. So that's what, if this creation is so beautiful, then how beautiful will be the creator? Just so glorious. And that is why there is this popular Hindi bhajan. We can't do anything. And Acharyas say this, we can simply fold our palms in Govinda Madhi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Or we say, Aise Sri Bhagavan ka barambar pranam hai. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. There's nothing we can do beyond this. That is, and this we must see is Krishna's vibhutis. His vibhutis, which is nothing, just his opulences. Just see how, if Krishna's personal form, attributes, qualities, paraphernalia, how beautiful they will be. These ornaments that we put on the Supreme Lord, they're called Bhushanam, Bhushanangam. Those ornaments are made beautiful by the Supreme Lord who is wearing them. This material creation that we see, every bit of it is meant to embellish the Supreme Lord. So, like we are offering wonderful bhoga to Krishna. Radha Parthasarthi Gauranitai, Sitaram, we offer wonderful bhoga in the morning. We try to make it more and more opulent. We must each of us remember that as part of his creation, we are also his bhoga. We have put tulsi on our necks. We are offering ourselves to Krishna. We are the bhoga. So when you offer it in that context, we understand therefore that he alone is the enjoyer, bhoktaram, and we are bhogyam. Therefore we offer ourselves. Everything that we have. Manasa deha geha jogachumar arpila tua pade nanda kishore. This creation also. These skyscrapers that Prabhupada is talking about also. Like in New York, the earliest temple we had was a multi-storied building in Iskcon. So in Detroit, the temple was such a huge building before Ambarish Prabhu purchased it. In Mayapur, what's going to come up is the temple of the Vedic planetarium, which is magnificent. There is a word in English called gargantuan proportions, which means Gargantua was a giant. So gargantuan proportions. This is that giant, it's that huge. This TOVP that's coming up. So skyscrapers we are also making. But we are making those skyscrapers for Krishna. In the 11th chapter, 55th verse of Bhagavad Gita, which is called the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Mat karma karan, mat paramo, mat bhakta sanghavarjita. Trivayra sarva bhuteshi yasamameti pandava. Do everything for me. Krishnartat akila cheshtita. Do everything for Krishna. Mat karma, Krishna himself saying, do it for me. And in that purport, Prabhupada says, in India, everybody, even if somebody is poor, he has a little bit of land. So he can use that land to do some agriculture, and he can sow and grow tulsi plants, which can be used to offer to the Lord. So everybody can grow it. So instead of growing this concrete jungle, we can use whatever resources we have. Even if you have to build skyscrapers for the pleasure of the Lord. Even if you have to have cars. I think this temple has cars being used by devotees for preaching, for purchases, for various purposes. So the cars, the planes, the trains, the automobiles, the buildings, everything that we have, because it's Maya Dhakshana Prakriti, which is part of Prakriti, should be used in service of my Adhyakshana, Krishna, whoever owns it. So to that person, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana means Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. Connect everything to Krishna. Yatha Arham Upayunjata, as is appropriately required. How will we develop this consciousness? We will develop this consciousness only if we perform our principles of devotion service tat karma pravartanat. When we do tat karma pravartanat, we will be able to connect yatha arham. When we do our duty as required, we will be able to connect things to Krishna as he desires. And then yat karoshi adasnasi will happen. And that is the essence of the understanding that is given here, that if we don't do sacrifice, there will be no rains. Without rains, there will be no grains. There will be only pains. So, it's very interesting. In childhood, we are told no pain, no gain. You heard of that? So there is no rain, no grain. So it's very clear. The connection is very clear. Without sacrifice, it is not possible. And what is sacrifice? Yajno vai Vishnu. Sacrifice means for the pleasure of the Lord. And Krishnarthat Akila Cheshtita. Whatever we do should be for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord alone. That way we'll be able to please the Supreme Lord and His creation also, because Mother Nature herself will be happy only if she is engaged in Krishna's service. And then it becomes easy for us to appreciate the greatness of all that is mentioned here. There are 100 roots. The interesting word used is Shata Valso. The word for root is called Valsa, which is Valsha. The word for child is called Vatsa. So as Krishna's Vatsas, our Valsha is Krishna. Yatha Tarur Mula Nisechanena. We should offer water to the roots, as they say. The root of the creation is the Supreme Lord. And as His children, we should allow ourselves to serve Him. And that is a way for us to be delivered. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. I have a request that I want the Vaishnavas, senior Vaishnavas to speak and others to maybe conclude with that. Because I have a meeting at 9 o'clock which will start sharp on time. I got to just run now. It's an online meeting. It's a very critical meeting for Iskcon India. So I seek permission from all the Vaishnavas to leave, and you could continue with comments from Prabhuji, and he's Siddham Prabhu's there, I didn't see. So we could have something to say, and then you could accordingly ask questions to any of them. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much, Sadhudev Prabhu, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण। मैं बोलूं? तो यहाँ पर सतवर्ष, ये बट वृक्ष का नाम है सतवर्ष। तो जैसे प्रभु जी ने बताया, वर्ष का मतलब है जड़ें। तो इस बट वृक्ष की 100 जड़ें हैं, और ये जो जड़ें हैं ये वास्तव में उसके तने हैं। 100 तने हैं, तो इसमें कहा 100 तने। तो इनको जड़ें भी बोलते हैं और तने भी बोलते हैं, क्योंकि बट वृक्ष जो बरगद का पेड़ होता है, तो उससे जड़ जो नीचे की ओर आती है, तो वो फिर जो है ज़मीन के अंदर चली जाती है, और फिर वो एक तना बन जाती है। तो वही जड़ जो है तना बन जाती है। और बट वृक्ष जो है जितनी ऊंचाई पर जाता है और जितनी नीचाई पर जाता है उसकी जड़ें, तो उसी प्रकार से उसको चारों तरफ भी फैलता है। तो चारों तरफ भी उसका विस्तार होता है बट वृक्ष का। तो उसको मजबूती चाहिए, मजबूत, क्योंकि अगर एक ही तना होगा तो फिर उसको सपोर्ट नहीं मिलेगा, है ना, उसको आधार नहीं मिलेगा। तो इसलिए उसकी जो है जो जड़ें हैं वो नीचे जा कर के ज़मीन में अंदर चली जाती हैं और वो तना बन जाती हैं। तो उसको 100 जड़ों वाला भी कह सकते हैं, 100 तनों वाला भी बोल सकते हैं, एक ही चीज़ है। तो बरगद के पेड़ में ही ये विशेषता होती है और किसी में नहीं है। तो ये सतवल्स नाम का जो बट वृक्ष है, तो इसमें 100 क्या है, तने हैं, है ना। तो तने जो है वो, एक तना तो मुख्य तना है जो बीच में है, जो ज़मीन से ऊपर निकला है, लेकिन बाकी जो तने हैं 100 तने चारों तरफ वो ऊपर से नीचे की ओर गए हैं, जमीन के अंदर गए हैं, तो वो भी तने हैं सतवल्स। और फिर इसमें बताया है कि काम दुघा नदा, इसमें जो है सर्व एव काम दुघा नदा, जो ऊपर से और भी जड़ें जो लटकी हुई हैं वो नीचे तक नहीं गई हैं, वो ऊपर से कई जड़ें जो है ऐसी भी हैं बट वृक्ष में जो ऊपर से लटकी हुई हैं और वो नीचे तक नहीं आई हैं। तो जो जड़ें ऊपर से लटकी हुई हैं तो उनसे जो है नद निकलते हैं। तो यहाँ पर नद शब्द का प्रयोग है, नदियाँ शब्द का, नदी शब्द का प्रयोग नहीं है। नद का मतलब होता है जो नदी से भी बड़ा हो। नदी जो है निकलती है तो जितनी चौड़ी होती है और उसकी जो रास्ता होता है वो भी टेढ़ा मेढ़ा होता है, लेकिन जो नद होता है वो नदी से ज़्यादा चौड़ा होता है और उसका रास्ता सीधा होता है। तो नद सीधा चलता है। तो नद और नदी में ये अंतर है, नद पुरुषवाचक है और नदी स्त्रीवाचक है। तो नदी जो है ये देवियाँ होती हैं जो कि नदी का रूप धारण करती हैं, और जो नद होते हैं वो देवता होते हैं जो नद का रूप धारण करते हैं। तो ये जो है बड़े बड़े नद हैं उस बट वृक्ष से निकल रहे हैं। और इसमें कितनी चीज़ें बताई गई हैं। एक तो है दूध, दूध बहता है ना। दूसरा नद निकलता है उस बट वृक्ष से, तो उससे दही प्राप्त होता है। तीसरा है मधु, चौथा है घी, और पांचवा है गुड़, और छठा है अन्न। ये 6 प्रकार के नद तो ये हैं। और फिर आदि बताए गए, आदि का मतलब और भी कई चीज़ें इस तरह से जो नद हैं। और फिर कुछ सामान के भी नद हैं, अंबर यानी वस्त्र। तो जो वस्त्र हैं वो सिले सिलाए वस्त्र भी मिलते हैं। और काम दुख नद हैं। काम दुख का मतलब है आप काम ना करेंगे, भाई आपकी साइज का चाहिए वस्त्र, तो आपकी साइज का सिला हुआ वस्त्र, तो वहाँ पर दर्जी की भी जरूरत नहीं है। काम दुख नद हैं ये हैं। और सैया, बिस्तर भी मिल जाएगा, हैं, बिस्तर भी बने बनाए मिल जाएंगे। आपकी साइज़ का बिस्तर आपकी साइज़ का चाहिए तो जो है वो बहा करके ले आएगा, हैं। और आसन, आसन कई प्रकार के आसन हैं। हाथी दांत के भी आसन होते हैं और सोफे होते हैं और कुर्सियाँ होती हैं, कई प्रकार के आसन हैं। तो वो भी जो है बहते हैं उसमें। तो आपको बढ़ई की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है, कारीगर की ज़रूरत नहीं है, ये सब जो है मिलते हैं। आसन, आभरण आदेह, आभूषण, आभूषण भी हैं। तो आपके साइज़ के आभूषण चाहिए ना, हैं, तो आपके साइज़ के बने बनाए आभूषण। कोई सुनार की आवश्यकता नहीं है वहाँ कि भाई आभूषण बनाए और आपके नाप लेगा वो, तो सब बने बनाए, है ना। तो जो जड़ें हैं, तो अगर आप इच्छा करते हैं कि भाई मुझे वो चाहिए, तो जड़ से निकलेंगे और बहते बहते आएंगे। अब जितना भी समय लगे बहने में वो अलग बात है। ये बट वृक्ष तो उसके ऊपर है, कुमुद पर्वत के ऊपर है, और वो 1100 योजन ऊपर है, और वहाँ से जड़ों से जो है बहते हैं तो 1100 योजन, हाँ, मतलब 1,20,000 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई से बह करके आएंगे। तो वो आएंगे बह करके, तो आपने जैसे ऑर्डर दे दिया तो अब जो है सप्लाई में टाइम लगेगा ना। तो वो जो है इतनी ऊंचाई से बहते हुए आएंगे और फिर जो है तुम्हारे पास आएंगे, लेकिन सप्लाई मतलब ज़रूर होगी, सप्लाई ज़रूर होगी। आपने ऑर्डर दिया है तो सप्लाई ज़रूर होगी। हो सकता है इंतज़ार करना पड़े, कितने दिन का इंतज़ार करना पड़े वो अलग बात है। तो ये सब जो है क्या है, सर्व एव काम दुखा नदा, काम दुख नद है ये। मतलब घी की मात्रा कितनी चाहिए, तो ये सप्लाई, वो नद जो है घी का नद है, वो सप्लाई करेगा। घी की मात्रा जितनी चाहिए उतनी सप्लाई करेगा। आपको यज्ञ करना है, यज्ञ में जो है कितना जो है मतलब टन घी लगता है, तो सब जो है वो सप्लाई करेगा। दूध की सप्लाई जितनी है, शहद की सप्लाई, गुड़, अन्न, ये सब सप्लाई है ना। अन्न भी आपको उगाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, मतलब खेती करते हैं ना, तो इतना परिश्रम होता है किसानों को खेती करना है, तो वहाँ पर सब सप्लाई है। वहाँ पर 4 प्रकार के वर्ण भी नहीं हैं। ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय वैश्य शूद्र ये 4 प्रकार के वर्ण नहीं हैं। ये सब जो स्थान हैं भारतवर्ष के अलावा, ये सब स्थान जो है भोग भूमि है। भारत ही केवल कर्म भूमि है। भारत में ही 4 प्रकार के वर्ण हैं, 4 प्रकार के आश्रम हैं। तो वहाँ पर जो है केवल भोगने के लिए। और इसमें 18वें अध्याय में ये बात आती है कि ये सब जो भारतवर्ष के अलावा जितने अलग अलग वर्ष हैं तो इनमें त्रेता युग के समान समय रहता है और आयु 10,000 साल की होती है। 10,000 साल की आयु होती है इन लोगों की। और स्त्री और पुरुष जो है एक दूसरे के साथ रहते भी हैं, लेकिन संतान उत्पन्न होती है सबसे आयु के अंतिम वर्ष में। आयु के अंतिम वर्ष में संतान उत्पन्न होती है। आयु के 10,000 साल की आयु है तो 9,999 साल तक जो है आपको कोई संतान नहीं होगी, और उसके बाद जो है संतान होगी। तो वंश परंपरा जो है चलती है, इस प्रकार से चलती है कि फिर तब संतान होगी, फिर उसको भी पूरी आयु वो भोगेंगे। इस प्रकार से त्रेतायुग में ऐसे भी हैं, भगवान श्री राम के भी जो है समय ऐसे था। 10,000 साल तक श्री राम ने संतान उत्पन्न नहीं किए। 10,000 साल के बाद सीता जी को गर्भ हुआ तो फिर उनको लवकुश जो पुत्र प्राप्त हुए। तो प्रभुपाद उसमें ये भी बताते हैं कि इन लोगों के अंदर मतलब ये भोगने की इच्छा नहीं होती है, ये जो है जीवन का असली आनंद प्राप्त करते हैं, उसमें काम वासना ना हो। जब काम वासना ना हो, स्त्री पुरुष साथ में रहें और काम वासना ना रहे तो जो है असली जीवन का आनंद प्राप्त होता है। और होती क्या है, कृष्ण कथा होती है। तो स्त्री पुरुष भी जो है कृष्ण कथा में लगे रहते हैं और वो जीवन का आनंद होता है। स्त्री का जो है असली जो संग है, स्त्री का जो असली आनंद है वो ये होता है कि कृष्ण कथा होए। तो इस प्रकार से वहाँ जो है जीवन का आनंद है। ये 8 वर्षों में इस प्रकार से जो है चलता है। हरे कृष्णा। धन्यवाद। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।